Hey everybody, thank you so much for asking those questions on my Instagram. I'm here to answer those, so let's get to it. This question comes from Nick. Collab bro. I love that question. This question comes from Ballistic Music. What are your favorite plugins that you cannot live without? I want to start basic with that one, which is the FabFilter Pro Q3. And that EQ changed my life. It changed the mixing itself for me. For the longest time, I wasn't the best mixer. And I mean, by any means, I'm not a professional mixer at all, but you can actually solo those frequencies that you think are there or that you didn't even know are there, especially if you're just learning and your ears aren't properly trained yet. It's just a lot more in depth than just the fruity parametric EQ. The plugin that I cannot live without is the Span plugin. And this one is the Spectrum Analyzer, and I use it for like my mixing, my mastering, and it's really nice because you can physically see where your frequencies are laying on the spectrum, but you can also use them for reference tracks to find out what you're missing, where you need more like frequencies or where you need to fill in the frequencies in your song. A good example of utilizing Span is if I have my headphones on and I'm working somewhere that's not in my studio where I can hear the bass and I can feel it or whatever. If I pull up that spectrum and I'm like cranking the bass, I can find out very quickly, like, hey, actually, that's not going to be the best for the mix because you're just cranking it just to hear it better because you don't have the proper speakers or environment at that time. How did you find your love for big room music? Started with Hardwell. So, short answer, Hardwell. Long answer, Hardwell. I went through some mental health struggles in 2015, and something that got me through was Hardwell, and his music really helped me. And it took me to a different place, if that makes sense. And it probably doesn't, but it's when you hear a song for the first time and you literally stop everything that you're doing and you're just like close your eyes and you just listen to it. If that can affect me, and I mean he didn't make the song for me, like he just made the music and it affected me that way. What got you into music production and who are those that inspire you? So I've always been into music ever since I was little. Let me know if you want to hear my origin story because it's actually kind of fun and funny. But it started when I was really young. So let me know in the comments below if you want to hear that story and I'll share it. But I want to create that music that affects people the way that Hardwell's music affected me. I'm inspired by a lot of artists, but Husman is definitely underrated. Okay, he's very underrated, and his production level is insane, and his melodies are just so catchy. They're so good. He brings in that orchestral vibe that I think is just so underutilized, and that's kind of what I want to go for. And I know that I've got a long way to go. What are your goals for the year? Getting my music to a professional level. And it sounds like a really far away goal, but I would love to get a track signed. So I'm going to keep working on that, and I'm going to focus every single day on this because life is short and I really want to work on it, and I really want to make music at a professional level that can also affect people the way that music has affected me. I just want a track signed. Any tips for mastering? One of my tips for mastering, I am not a professional masterer, but something I've learned is that I get a much better result when I use multiple plugins or multiple limiters versus just using one limiter and maxing that out. I think it's better to do subtle changes, and if there's something that you have to make like a huge change to, I suggest going back to the mix, but in the end, it's the finished product. I don't think that anybody's going to care, like, oh, I used 50 limiters and which, oh gosh, can you imagine the CPU? I don't think that there's anything wrong with how you get your sound, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with using 10 limiters if you want to, or if it sounds good to you, then you should definitely do it. Another tip I have for mastering is something I learned from Toxic Joy, and it is that if you start with a clean mix, your mastering is going to be easier, it's going to sound better, it's going to just be overall a lot easier to work with because you're making subtle changes, just kind of sprinkling the sprinkles on top of the iced cake. Do you like food analogies? Let me know. Any upcoming releases? Yes. So I have Take Back Control, which maybe I'll add a little clip in here. Take Back Control, January 28th. This one I teased for, I teased about a month ago on my Instagram, and I wasn't super, it wasn't perfect. And I mean, by any means, it's not perfect. But I really wanted the feedback from Ozgun. Shout out to Ozgun. But there are a lot of things that I haven't mastered. I mean, there's a lot of things that I haven't, pun intended, but there's a lot of things that I'm still learning. And I think that it's important to keep going and not be so hung up on one release isn't perfect, I'm not ready to send it out or anything. I think I'm doing a lot better now that I'm just letting go of these projects and like just releasing them, calling them done, and so yeah. Show us how to use contact articulation and velocity for notes. Okay, I will. Thank you again for all of those questions, everybody, and let me know what you would want me to go over next, if it's something music production related, or if it's something more about me, my origin story, like I mentioned. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm here. But thank you so much for watching.